Hello everyone and welcome to another workshop video. The long-time viewers among you might know that in 2020 my dad and I started building this very workshop. And I have already made 2 videos about this project, so if you haven't watched those already, I highly recommend you take a look at those first. It has been a while since I have made the previous video on the workshop, and there are many reasons for why that is. But the most important ones are that I had to focus on a lot of cool car projects, and that took my focus away from the shop a bit. But the most important reason why it took so long is because I actually lost the hard drive with all the footage that was in the first half of this video. But recently I found that hard drive again, and that meant I had the footage to start making part 3 of the dream workshop build.
All my friends, yellow rider.
We pick up where we left off in the previous episode, and that is with the gate. We came up with a system for a folding door that slides between 2 rails. Our concept looked promising during the first test, so now we are going to continue on that route. Since those first tests, I have painted all the hinges, the rail and its brackets in a rust preventative paint, so now they can get mounted permanently. Now that the rail is installed, we're going to work on covering the door frames. My dad already placed the frames in their exact position, which will make adding the hinges later much easier. As per usual, I'm cutting the planks to size while my dad is nailing them in place. An afternoon of work later and the first section is done. The result is pretty clean, and I think the gate blends in very well with the rest of the shop. The next day my dad and I woke up early to turn the wooden panels into a folding and sliding gate. In order to make it happen, we had to design a hinge system ourselves, and then we got it fabricated by a friend. It consists out of a conventional hinge that slides freely over a metal rod that is welded to a wheel, and that wheel will ride on the bottom rail. Some small cutouts need to be made into the bottom part of the gate, and then they can be mounted.
Zeker met dat gewicht eraan, denk ik dat dat veel uit gaat maken.
On the top part of the gate, another hinge gets mounted that rides in the upper rail. The finished product is doing what it is supposed to do, but we came across some small issues with instability and friction. We came up with a solution, but that involved getting new hinges and wheels fabricated, so we're going to pick up on this later. Next up, we're going to work on finishing the inside of the shop, starting with the ceiling and more specifically the section above the lift. If you remember from the previous episode, we have made this temporary floor here to make sure that we could access the entire ceiling. Throughout building the shop, I have also been fixing cars in the meanwhile, and it was really annoying having this floor here because it limited how high the cars could get lifted. So that is why our next focus is to complete this section of the ceiling so that we can get rid of it. The ceiling is now completely covered in wood, but before removing the temporary floor, we have already installed 2 fluorescent light fixtures now that we still have easy access to the ceiling. So with all of that out of the way, it's time to free up some space above my lift. That looks heaps better. With the high ceiling exposed, the shop looks way roomier, and I finally can imagine what all of this will look like once finished. Very motivating. Something we haven't talked about yet is the electricity. I am not too knowledgeable when it comes to installing home electricity, but luckily my brother and my dad are good in that department, so the two of them took it upon themselves to lay down the entire electrical circuit. Aside from installing many power outlets and hardwiring the lift, they also laid down the entire circuit for the lighting. I have been experimenting for a while on what will be the best setup for the lights in the area around the lift, and I decided on mounting 6 fluorescent light fixtures on the surrounding beams. I bought some L-shaped brackets that needed slight modification before being used to hang the lights from. That is the first section of lights installed, and I really like the layout. Now we just have to replicate it on the other side of the lift, but sadly I am short of 3 fixtures, so that will need to do later. Now my dad and I are going to focus on finishing the remaining walls, because I've been looking at this ugly insulation for way too long. Before we started, I took a look behind some of the insulation and noticed that the outside planks were letting some water trickle through, so to prevent that the insulation gets wet, we're going to install a vapor barrier. With the insulation back in position, we can finally start dressing up those walls with some pine wood planks. Okay, so the shop looks like an absolute mess, and that is because I had to move pretty much all of my tools. But it was for a good cause, because now finally all the walls on the inside have been covered in wood. I don't have to look at that ugly insulation anymore, which makes me very, very happy. And I also think that the shop is starting to look as clean on the inside as it is doing on the outside, which is a great thing as well. My father and me also finished the ceiling in the little storage area, and I'll quickly go up there right now because the next work we are going to do is also going to be in this little area. I don't know if I have showed this little area to you guys already, but pretty much this is going to be a little storage room. I am going to store all my old engines and other car parts over here. And the next task on my to-do list is to finish the floor over here, because currently we have these OSB plates just laying loosely on it. And now I am going to cut them to size and fix them properly. Okay, so the upstairs floor is now completely done, and I think we have created a very nice storage space for car parts. Pretty much ever since I started working in the shop, a lot of spare parts have been accumulating in this corner of the shop, and it has been annoying me for quite some time, so now it is pretty cool that we can store all of it up here. But moving all of that stuff is for later, because now I want to focus on some more important things, and one of them is installing the remaining light fixtures. A while back my dad and I installed all of these lights in the shop, and they have been working excellently. The only thing is that we came up short on some of the fixtures, and that is why there are 3 missing in this part of the shop, and those I am going to install right now. I sourced 3 more fixtures that are identical to the ones that we already installed. And instead of using traditional fluorescent lights, we're going to use these LED conversions everywhere. These should be able to bump up the light intensity quite well, and as added benefits should also be more durable and less power consuming. Okay, so I finished with putting up the light fixtures, and additionally I also added their mirrors or reflectors, whatever you want to call them. So now we are ready to put in the lights themselves. Installing one of these LED conversions is pretty easy. The only thing you have to do is to replace the fluorescent starter with one that is dedicated for LEDs. And then you have to pretty much install the light in the same way you would with a fluorescent one. So pretty much it's just the same with a different type of light. After converting all of the lights, the difference is pretty significant. The light in the shop is nice and bright, which will be perfect for working here, and it should be pretty good for filming as well. The bad lighting in the shop was a big annoyance for me, and now it is time to tackle another one. The area around where the chimney goes into the ceiling looks really ugly, so we are going to fabricate a metal plate to go around it. We made a mold out of a foam plate, and then once it fitted properly, we made one out of sheet metal. Once it was painted with heat-resistant paint, it could get mounted onto the ceiling. I have put on the wood stove to check how hot the plate is getting, and you can pretty much still touch it with your bare hands. So I think we are safe in that department, and I think the result is clean enough for what we are doing here. So yeah, I'm happy that I don't have to look at that ugly hole in the ceiling anymore. Now onto something else. My dad bought these two Netherman reels, one is for air hose and the other is an electric cable. He bought these second-hand, but they are still in very good condition and they will definitely be a nice addition. Mounting them is pretty easy as they are held up by a simple plastic bracket. So with that done, there is only one more thing that I want to do in this episode, and that is to finally fix the gates. I don't know if I have explained it already in this episode, but that gate pretty much is just a wall at the moment. We haven't fitted any wheels or hinges because we weren't really satisfied with how this door is functioning right now. This gate has been some kind of an experiment conducted by my brother, my dad and me. We designed the entire system ourselves and selected the wheels, rails, whatever you want to call it. And it has been working pretty well during the last 8 months, but there are some small tweaks that we want to do to make it work even better. And that is why we haven't already put the same hardware on that door, because we didn't want to do double work. So yeah, we're going to fix this door first, and once that is done, we're going to do that one as well. And then we can put, I think, pretty much 3 cars in here, which will be nice. The gate is currently fully functional, but it is slightly flawed. Opening it requires a lot of force and it doesn't feel very pleasant due to a lot of friction being present. That friction is caused by the wheels on the bottom rail. Once the panels are moved, the wheels have the tendency to turn along, which causes it to not roll straight over the rail. This, combined with the gate's heavy weight, makes for a lot of friction, and which is something we finally want to solve. So we went back to the drawing board and came up with these double wheels. With those installed, it should become impossible for the piece to rotate, and thus our issue should be solved if we switch them around. Of course, the rain started to pour down once we started the operation, which compromised the filming of the swap, but basically we simply lifted up and supported the gate and then removed the wheels together with the hinges. Then we switched the hinges from the single wheel onto the double wheels and then reinstalled everything. The result is a much more dynamic gate that folds and opens much more smoothly. A perfect result. Now it is simply a matter of replicating our newly developed system onto the other gate. Opening the second gate for the first time revealed that the right panel is folding slightly crooked, so some fine-tuning will be necessary, but I'm not going to bore you guys with that, because finally it is time to behold what the gate looks like fully opened. The shop is now really coming together and I am so happy with all the work that we have done. I think the biggest improvement will be the lights that we have fitted. I really can't wait until I can get working on a car again. But for now we are going to stay focused on working in the shop. And we are actually at the final stage, which is building an epic workbench in this corner. I am really sick of having to work on this crappy table with that stupid little vise. I'm sure a lot of you have seen that already in my videos. So it really is time to build a really nice workbench in this area. Let me know what you guys think about the build so far, and if you have any suggestions about things that I might need to add in the shop, please let me know in the comments. I'll happily read about it. And that is going to be everything for today's episode. So thank you so much for watching, and until next time.